In this video, we're going to paint this gorgeous Christmas lantern. Hi, I'm Marion Dutton. I'm the founder of MazArt Studio and the author of the Healing Art book. If you're new to this channel, I really do hope you'll consider subscribing. So if you'd like to paint along with me and you'd love to have the template for this particular painting, please pop on over to my website and visit the online school and you'll be able to download this template for free. And if you do decide to have a go, please come and share your paintings with me over on my Facebook group, which is called the MazArt group, or you can also share them by hashtagging me on Instagram at #MazArtStudio. I hope you enjoyed the video tutorial and I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas. So the canvas has already been pre-primed with a grey gesso, and here I've got a container of water and a little paper plate that has grey gesso, white gesso and black gesso on there. This is a 16 by 20 inch canvas. Now I'm using the Hate brush and I'm going to begin covering the whole of the canvas, which is completely dry, just with plain water. I'm going back and forth, making sure that everything's just nicely damp. Don't want it soaking wet, we just want this damp. So I'm using a bristle filbert brush and I'm going into the pale grey. I'm going to wipe the excess off on a paper towel, and into that damp water area I'm going to make little circles. I'm actually creating the illusion of Christmas baubles here. And again, the reason we wanted the area damp is so that these circles will stay nice and soft. I'm varying the sizes and keeping this nice and random. And here I'm using a rigger brush just to add the illusion that there's some strings that these baubles are hanging from. I'm keeping everything very, very soft and allowing the paint to bleed into that damp water underneath. And then we'll dry that off with the hairdryer and then repeat and do another layer. I'm overlapping the baubles this time, making sure that they're nice and random, but they are overlapping slightly. Some of them are a little more faded and some are a bit brighter. Here I'm using my finger just to create some different shapes and to soften. It's very important that the canvas is damp so that you don't end up with any hard edges. And again, grab the hairdryer and dry everything off. I've got my tracing and I've scribbled on the back with some charcoal, and I'm positioning it kind of following the rule of thirds, taping that down at the top and using a pen to go over the outline and constantly lifting that up to check. Now I'm blocking in, again sticking to the acrylic colours. I'm using black to block in the lantern. Notice that I'm leaving little spaces so that I can see the detail, so little parts of the grey gesso peeking through. The candle and the base of the candle is painted in white. I'm just blocking things in at this stage. Now here you'll notice I'm using the brush on the chiseled edge to create the illusion of these acorns. Notice that I'm pulling everything in towards the center. We're just looking for a really nice outside edge. I'm going to begin adding in some ferns. Again, we're just blocking this in and giving myself a little bit of a horizon line. Bringing some of that detail to the side and behind the lantern as well. And again, you'll notice that all my strokes are pulled towards the center of the fern, and I'm looking for a really interesting outside edge. Here I'm blocking the center part in and then focusing on getting a really nice irregular outside edge. I'm putting another layer of white on the candle, and then once everything's done I'm going to dry that off again. We'll now switch to the oil paints. I'm going to cover the entire background in an oil painting medium, just a very thin coat, and then I take a paper towel and I'll just wipe away some of that excess. I'm now going to begin a very thin coat of paint all over the background. I'm using Prussian blue, some violet and touches of alizarin crimson. I'm keeping the colours quite random. Here you can see the Prussian blue. Now notice this is a very thin layer and it's just tinting that background and going over the baubles that we'd already put on in acrylic. I'm keeping the mixtures quite random. Then I'll use a very soft mop to gently soften any harsh brush strokes. I'm using a flat brush and a very small amount of titanium white just to add a little bit of extra detail to the baubles to make them look pearlescent. And here you can see I'm adding a little bit of shine, and again using that mop to keep everything nice and soft. To create the sparkles I'm using a little touch of white that's got a bit of blue in there, and I'm creating these little star shapes, allowing the edges of the brush to really taper out. You do want to tint the white down a little bit, so I've used the white with a touch of blue, and then into the center of the little starbursts I can put pure titanium white, and that will really give the impression of sparkles and shine. It is much thicker adding that white on, just to really make the stars shine. And like with the background, I'm covering the snow area with hints and tints of the same colours. That's the Prussian blue, a little bit of violet, touches of alizarin. And again, this is just a very thin coat, it's really just a tint. I'm also going to tint the lantern with just a little bit of that Prussian blue. You won't be seeing this over the black, but you do want a little hint of that colour on there. And then using a flat brush with a small amount of white, I'm going to begin detailing the left hand side of the lantern. This is just to suggest a little bit of light that's caught on that side of the lantern. Gently blend that and allow the colour to fade into the black. Working on the glass now, I'm going to begin adding just a little bit of violet in the upper part. A very, very thin amount of paint. Again, just tinting. Think about just tinting the grey. Then I'm going to switch then to yellow ochre. I'm going over the candle and adding a little bit of that yellow ochre, and this is to give the illusion that the candle is glowing. I'm going over and in front of the candle as well. And here I'm adding just a little bit of cadmium orange. Again, just softly blending those colours together. And strengthening the orange just to create that really lovely glow. A little bit more of that yellow ochre. Then I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow. Here I'm softening with the mop. And a little bit of cadmium yellow right around that candle area. And again, just softening with that mop, keep everything nice and soft. Finally, a little bit stronger of that cadmium yellow and white. And then finally just using white on its own right on the actual candle or the flame. To add the illusion that there is glass, I'm going to use titanium white and an overhand grip to gently drag the white paint. You want to go over everything very, very lightly, leaving some of the areas clear. But you really do need an overhand grip for this to work effectively. This really pushes the candle as though it's behind the glass. Again, I'm going to use the mop, first going across and then very gently going downwards. Again, this is why you need to put those initial colours on very, very thin so that you're able to put that thicker glass over the top. Finally, I'm going to go back to using just black on its own to neaten up the outside edges of the lantern. I'm now using a very, very thin covering of sap green just to tint the ferns. Now I'm adding a little bit of cadmium yellow and white, and I'm going to begin just highlighting the ferns. We will gradually keep going brighter and brighter, but the brighter we go, the smaller of the area we cover. This really allows the light to stay nice and focused. Again, notice the direction of the strokes. I'm using a very strong chiseled edge brush. This is one of the MazArt brushes, and it's got a very sharp chiseled edge, which is great for producing these ferns. This is the first pass over the ferns using the highlight colour. And here you can see I've added even more yellow and even more white, and I'm really going to pick out some highlights which I think will be really bright at catching the light from the flame. You really don't want to overdo this this area. You want to be nice and controlled, keeping a lot of those darks on show. Think about which part of those ferns would be really catching that extra light from that candle glow. I'm covering the acorns with a little bit of burnt umber and then just a very small amount of white. I'll begin to pick out the highlights on the acorns. So just tinting with the burnt umber to begin with, and then a very small amount of white. You don't want to make these too light. And again, notice that I'm using a chiseled edge brush and all my strokes are angled towards that centre to really create the illusion of these acorns. Using titanium white, I'm going to begin adding the mounds of snow. Notice how I create the initial mound and then begin to soften outwards into the tinted colours that are underneath. I'm pushing the snow up into the acorns and up into the ferns to really make them look as though the snow has actually fallen around them. Here I'm adding just little tints of yellow ochre onto the snow, just to give the illusion that that candle glow is reflecting and causing the snow to be just a little bit tinted. I'm adding a little bit of snow to the acorns. On the side nearest the candle glow, I'm using white with just a little touch of yellow. And just imagining that there's some snow sitting in between all the little ridges on the acorn. This is going on quite thick now, just to make it look very shiny and very strong. I'm using a little tapping stroke just to kind of give the illusion that this is snow and it has some texture. On the shadow side, I'm using the white with just a little touch of the Prussian blue, just to give the illusion that there's a little shadow on that side. I'm going to begin adding some final highlights to the ferns using more yellow and white, really highlighting the areas that I think would be catching some strong glow from that candle. Again, be very, very choosy where you place those final brighter highlights. Your darks are your friend, and that the light will have far more impact if you don't overuse it. Finally, I'm going to add some little berries, and I'm just using alizarin crimson to underpaint the berries. I'm placing these in little clusters. I like to use odd numbers as well whenever I'm doing anything like this. And then I'm using cadmium red just to highlight the berries. I'm putting that on quite thick as well, just so that they really pop. Okay, now for those final touches. I've laid the painting flat again, and I'm going to use a little bit of ultra fine glitter. I'm using red, white and green. And of course this is optional, but while the oil painting is wet, I'm going to just drop in a little bit of this glitter. I'm putting the red glitter onto the red berries, and this will really give it a lovely Christmas feel. It'll be one of them paintings that will be an absolute delight to bring out every year. I'm using the glitter, green glitter for the ferns. And I'm using white on the snow area. Again, less is more, don't overdo this stage. And here is the finished painting. I really do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you are on Instagram and you have a go at this, please hashtag MazArt Studio. And if you are on Facebook, I do have a MazArt group, so you can always share your version there. Thanks for watching.